Hi folks, welcome back to the cabin at Frog Hollow. We are continuing with our series of Great Lakes flies. We took the spring and summer off, so we're into, for lack of a better term, season 2. So we're going to do some cool stuff here. Right now we're going to focus on some of the streamers of the Great Lakes, and today I want to talk to you about a fly that we call the Zoncora. Cross between a Zonker fly, which is nothing new in fly business, so to speak, but a number of years ago, probably 15 or so now, when I was fishing in Argentina, we were fishing a river and the guides were constantly talking about this pancora crab that the brown trout feed on there so heavily. And we came across a nest of them, believe it or not. First time they had come across with a nest of these crabs. So I looked at them really close, photographed them, and then myself and the head guide there decided that evening over a couple bottles of Argentine wine that we would design a fly that would imitate the pancora crab. So anyway, we came up with this fly we call the Zoncora. Very simple fly. Their underbelly is a copper orange color, olive across the backs. They've got some legs. Obviously, it's a crab. We put a little bit of flash on it. Put a cone bead head on it for some weight, so we could get some swimming action. And this is the original fly, is the copper orange belly, olive back with some barred rubber legs. Fantastic pattern. We have found that, first of all, it was very effective in Argentina on the browns and rainbows there, but we brought it home and it turns out to be an absolute killer fly here. And specifically, not only for big brown trout, but the smallmouth guys absolutely love this fly. So let's tie it. We're going to start. I've got a new hook I want to just show you. This is a streamer hook, 4X long, size 4. It's a Kona, relatively new brand in the United States. Great product. Priced right. Pack of 30 retails for, $5.95 in that price bracket. So in today's world, for a high carbon steel hook, microbarb, chemically sharpened, that's a damn good price. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the cone head. And I have a large brass cone head that I'm just slipping on the hook and taking it to the eye. We'll get it clamped up here and get going on the fly. So I'm using olive. This is 6.0. Some of the new super strong stuff. Can just about pull a Volkswagen out of a ditch with a 6.0 thread. That's crazy. Once upon a time we could barely tie a dry fly with some of the old nylons. We're using a bronzy copper marabou for the undertail. I like to take the whole marabou plume, push it out. We're going to use just the length of the hook shank to tie that in. So I'm going to set that. I've measured it, tie it in. We're going to go 2 to 3 wraps. I'm going to wrap twice, make sure it's up on top, pull down tight, give it a few extra wraps. There's a nice tail mount. I'm going to take the thread up to the cone, and this is something I do on a lot of these flies, but I'm building an underbody, and I'm going to take the balance of this marabou plume and I'm just going to palmer wind it towards that eye to build that underbody, to fatten it up a little bit. You'll see that here in a minute when I tie this off. Tying it off on the underside. That sounds kind of weird, but if you tie it off and clip it off at the top, it pushes that cone to an unusual position that I don't like. So I tie it off on the underside. Okay, so Palmer wrap back to the start end point. We're going to add now our ribbing material. This is a medium copper wire. I have one pre-cut here. I'm going to tie that in. That's going to rib our Zoncora, or our Zonker style. So we're just going to make sure that's in nice and tight. Next, we're going to add the body material. The body material is, excuse me, I'm not quite ready here with this, but I'm going to show it to you. There's going to be a lot of questions about it because it's a pretty cool material. It is UV polar chenille. Show it to you here in the camera. The magic of copper, which is what this is, and olive cannot be disputed. It is for some, it's just magic together. So we're going to start this polar chenille, and I'm going to take the thread up to where I'm going to add the rubber legs, which is about half the distance between the back of the cone and the bend of the hook. So I like to keep this all together because it's wasteful if you don't. If you cut out a segment, is it too short? Is it too long? I just keep it all in my hand. So we're going to start Palmer wrapping this polar chenille up to the leg tie-in point. Now, if I hadn't put an underbody under this chenille, it would have made a really skinny looking body. Kind of an anemic look. We don't want that. Okay, we're going to stop right there because that's our tie-in spot for our rubber legs. Our rubber is tannin black. And we're going to tie those in. Well, that's white, but you know, it should be tan. It's okay, I'm going to use this. This is what I have. We're going to go around it twice. I'm going to show you on the other side where you can actually see it. Snip that off. So here we go. Round it twice. Now you can adjust that. Tighten it up. It flares the legs. We're going to jump up in front. Trim those off. Now you want all your legs the same length. We just stand them up right now. Grab them with your left hand and just snip them all together. Now they're all exactly the same length. We're going to continue on. Polar chenille right between the two so that we get that nice X pattern. Jump up in front. About 3 more wraps. We're there. Three times around. We're going to snip that out. Now we're ready for the rabbit strip across the back. You'll notice all of this relatively stiff polar chenille standing up there. I'm going to take my scissors and go across the top so that this rabbit strip is going to lay nice and flat across the top of that hook shank. So we're going to V-cut. Let me show you. A snip there, a snip there. So we've V-cut that tie-in spot. I'm also going to remove the rabbit hair right there, right off the top of it. I do that because if you tie it in with the rabbit hair on top, you're cinching down on the hair, and it's not a secure tie-in. So we take the hair off the top. I want to get that right on top of the shank, just like that. Now, we're going to give it several wraps. Okay? We're going to go just beyond the marabou and cut our rabbit strip so that we've got lots of wiggle back here behind the bend of the hook. So I'm going to cut that about, a good 1/4 of an inch beyond the marabou. And that's going to be the total length of the fly. So now we're going to take our copper wire and we're going to rib this. The easiest way to stand up rabbit fur, to rib through it, is just lick your fingers. Watch how this will stand and stay. It's a big difference in the tie-in process. The first one is the worst because you want to make sure that that tie-in spot, you're right exactly on top of the shank of the hook. Now we can palmer wrap up the body. Stand that hair. It's still got a little moisture in it from my fingers. And we're just going to palmer wrap all the way up. This one's going to go through that leg. It takes about 4, just depends on the length of the shank of the hook, about 4 wraps. One right at the head. And we're going to tie off that wire. Couple wraps, snip the wire. Now right here, we want to make sure that we haven't trapped any of these rabbit hairs, which we have. So what you do is you take a bodkin or a needle and just go underneath and pull up. And what's going to happen is we're pulling the rabbit hair out from underneath the wire and giving us a full zonker on the top. So there it is, nice and smooth. No big gaps where the hair is mashed down. It just makes a real nice tie. Next we're going to add a little bit of flash. So we're going to add some copper and gold flashabou. Get those ends evened up. A few, I think I have 3 or 4 here, which is plenty. We're not looking to make it look like a MEP spinner. We just want a little attraction here with a little bit of flash. So we'll go over it once. It's kind of unmanageable when you first pull that hank out because it's so long. Sometimes you kind of have to manipulate that with another hand. We're going to snip that out now. So we're just about done. What we're going to do now is add the collar. The collar, simple olive streamer hackle, saddle hackle if you will. And so it's a big long hackle. I'm going to take all the soft marabou barbels out of it. Strip a few off at the tie-in point. So again, we're tying on the stem and not over the feather itself. We've got a nice tie-in spot there. And we're not going to use the hackle pliers because this is a big feather and we can do it pretty handily even with these big hands. And this usually is about 3 wraps of this. I used to think this was just kind of window dressing when folks would do this on the front of a streamer. It's more than window dressing. It adds some resistance when the streamer's coming through the water, and it sets up some turbulence as the water goes around it and makes the tail wiggle. A few wraps. And now we're going to whip finish. Long throat whip finisher. Go right behind the cone head. And that ends the Zoncora. Very simple fly pattern. Very effective. Fun to tie. Have a blast.